What is going on, everybody? Welcome into not only another edition of Shot Callers, but our first episode of the 2021-2022 season. Kyle, we're back, baby.
Yeah, we made it. We made it through the offseason.
We did. We are recording this. It is Saturday, October 2nd, and we're going to be doing actually 2 episodes for you this week. Just as a general housekeeping, we're going to be going live every Friday during the season. But for this week, you'll get an episode on Wednesday, as well as an episode this Friday, because we're doing our conference tier lists for both conferences. So tonight, or I guess today, depending on when you're listening to this, we're going to be doing the Eastern Conference. And then on Friday, you'll get the Western Conference tier list. So keep an eye out for both of those. Another thing to keep in mind as well, if you're listening to this, we are actually going to be doing YouTube companions for both of these. So if you want more of like a visual representation, feel free to go hop over to the YouTube channel. If you're already watching this on the YouTube, thank you so much for being here. Please make sure to like, subscribe. Maybe as you're watching this, leave some comments down below on where you think we throw some of these teams. If you got some objections, anything like that, it's much appreciated. And if you're watching on YouTube and you're wondering where else can I listen or where can I listen to the Shot Callers, we're available on wherever you listen to all of your podcasts. That's all I got to start. Kyle, you got anything else before we get into this?
No, I'm excited about it. Let's go over the format because we got the 6 different categories.
Yeah, I could definitely do that. Let me pull this up real quick. Go ahead and break it down for us, my guy.
Yeah, of course we got title favorites, people we think are probable to win the title or be in the finals. 3 to 5 seed, 6 to 8 seed, the play-in tournament, lottery teams, and my favorite, the 14 percenters. Those are teams with the 14% chance in the lottery, teams that actually have a shot at the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
So we're going to be putting them here, maybe agreeing, maybe disagreeing, but we hope to kind of come to some sort of agreement on this list. And
Yeah, I already know there's going to be a little bit of dissonance just because talking right before we started recording, I did my kind of rankings a little different. Kyle, you did it a little more straightforward and honestly the right way. You actually you have 8 teams between title favorites and 6 to 8. And I kind of just threw teams where I thought their ceilings were. But I think for the sake of making this make a bit more sense, I'm definitely down to roll with your tactic of let's try and just keep it into a 1 to 8. So I know we're going to have some agreements. I'll probably have to move somebody down. I'm kind of prepped for that. But without further ado, let's get started. Let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. They are coming off of an Eastern Conference Finals run that really nobody expected, but was really fun to watch unless you grew to dislike the heel character of Trae Young. I know he's not for everybody, but a really, I'd say, successful season for Atlanta. They're kind of running things back to go in. Kyle, where do you have them sitting going into the 2021-22 season?
I have them in the 3 to 5 seed.
That is also where I had them.
Yeah. I think that they're just going to be better than this year because they're getting some of their guys back healthy. They didn't really play a lot of games with Bogey healthy, as well as Deandre Hunter healthy, and Cam Reddish healthy at the same time. And so I'm curious to see what that lineup looks like. I think that they probably have Bogdanovic run the second unit, would be my guess. I think that obviously Trae Young is a lock. You're going to have John Collins be a lock out there. I think DeAndre Hunter should be in the starting lineup. And so, I mean, there's just a kind of that 2 spot where do you put Kevin Huerter out there? Do you put Reddish out there? Do you put Bogey out there? We know Clint Capella will be starting at center. So it'll be cool to see this team with kind of all of their pieces back. They made a really, really impressive run. I didn't think they were for real. Kind of the whole time it was happening. I don't know if I ever fully bought in until it was over, and then I was like, wow, that was actually a really good team.
It definitely was. It was one of those things as the playoffs kept going on. They beat New York. And I was kind of sitting there thinking to myself, all right, well, Philadelphia is going to take care of them. Like, this is fine. And then they beat Philadelphia. And there was a second there in that Bucks series as well where it was just like, is Atlanta really going to take this thing to the finals? And then the Bucks kind of took over. But I'm in agreement with you as far as the 3 to 5 seed production. You kind of nailed all the points I was, going to talk about. I think the biggest thing is going to be them getting those guys back healthy, especially DeAndre Hunter. This isn't going to be the first time you hear me say this. It probably won't be the last as well. I really think DeAndre Hunter is a guy that could be in the conversation for most improved player this season. I just really think he could be a key that makes things go for that lineup. It really just, I thought one thing that really hurt them in the playoffs was they didn't have that go-to wing defender. And I think that's something DeAndre Hunter can provide to this team. So glad to know off the rip, at least, we have a bit of harmony for Atlanta in the 3 to 5.
Yeah. I do worry a little bit about how they match up with the teams that I'm putting in the title favorites.
Yeah.
And even potentially in the 3 to 5 seed teams. I do worry about how they match up in the playoffs, but this is more of like the regulars, how I see them stacking up.
I agree completely. I think that's really what it boils down to, why I put them in 3 to 5, and it's probably the same for you as well. It's just they're going to be a really fun team again. Last season was kind of an anomaly where it probably happened way sooner than they would have thought it would. And just with Brooklyn getting healthy, Miami making those moves, and I know we're going to talk about these teams, so I'm not going to give too much away, but I think it's just Atlanta's not going to have the firepower to outduel some of the higher risers in the East.
Right. Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to the Boston Celtics. Kyle, I would love to hear where you have Boston. I think we're gonna be in agreement, but I'm a little skeptical.
Yeah, Boston's a really weird one, man. I do feel like that it's tough because they've been in the Eastern Conference Finals 3 times in the last 5 years, maybe.
Yes.
It's a good franchise, but it just feels like they're getting further away from where they need to be. I don't feel like they're getting better each year. I have them as the 6 to 8 seed right now. Which is crazy when, I don't know, look at what Tatum and Brown alone, it feels like that should be enough. It does, but it's just not.
The supporting cast is You see Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and you think, oh, that's awesome. But it takes a village at the end of the day, and I just don't think they have the greatest village.
Yeah, I think that guys like Josh Richardson, Al Horford, Dennis Schroeder, it's kind of like a team or 2 teams too late. You know what I mean? It's kind of like we got these guys kind of not only after their good stage, and then another team in between. And so that's kind of a bummer to see. Where does Enes Kanter get you? I don't know. Like I legitimately don't know what this team does. Marcus Smart's a huge question mark. Like, is he going to be the guy? Is he not going to be the guy?
Where does he fit in this?
Yeah.
And I think, I think a word that really sums up this current, I don't know if you want to call it iteration or era or just where they're sitting right now, underwhelming. And I say this really because, they just had this transition of Brad Stevens taking over for Danny Ainge in the front office. And so I think Stevens, he knows this team. He's been coaching them. He knows what they need. And it just feels like they didn't go out and get any of it. I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's underwhelming. The war chest of assets has really turned into nothing. And they've kind of just sat on their hands through every single free agency. And when they did kind of get involved, it went either really badly or just really unlucky. When you look at like their trade for Kyrie, when you look at Gordon Hayward, all of that, I mean, it's just not gone well for them.
Yeah.
I think that they're all like right now they're sitting out because of Bradley Beal, just like they were kind of sitting out and kind of waiting potentially on getting Kawhi, and they sat out and didn't trade Jaylen Brown. Say what you want. I mean, the team that did trade for Kawhi that year ended up winning a title, so feels like the right decision to me. I don't
sitting out on trading or sitting out on Anthony Davis offers.
The team that did trade for that won the title.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would Toronto trade their title for 3 Eastern Conference Finals? I don't think so. Would the Lakers trade their title for 3 Eastern Conference Finals? Or what? I don't think so. I think that the other teams really pushed all their chips in, and instead of having a war chest of assets and the kind of this security blanket and playing it safe and trying to kind of hedge, they went all in. They got their guy, and I just don't understand. Josh Richardson and older Al Horford, who's still a smart player, who'll still play good enough defense, but like it's not enough. It's not enough. Teams.
It feels like they're just hoping.
Like
it feels like they're just hoping to catch lightning in a bottle with this roster. And I
don't know how many more levels Tatum and Brown have. They are like superstars. They are like top of their position. You know what I mean? They are like excellent. Like they're a solid A at what they do. Love them both. What more do you want from them? I don't know.
It just boils down to they gotta get some help for those guys, and much like we said with Atlanta, and this is going to be a common theme. So strap in to hear this now. They don't have the firepower. At the end of the day, Boston. This is. So,
yeah. Peyton Pritchard looked great in summer league. I mean, he was one of the bright spots, but defensively he got demolished. So, maybe that's something to look forward to. But like, is Bruno Fernando or Romeo Langford going to give you anything? Grant Williams, like, you know what I mean? Like, those are just guys. They're just guys. Draft picks look super nice until that draft pick is Bruno Fernando.
Yeah. Well, speaking of a team from going from just guys to a team that has some legit guys, the Brooklyn Nets. This team, a shoe size away from going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. Had some health issues down the stretch with their big three. This season, not only are they getting a great roster healthy, they made some sneaky good moves in the offseason. Patty Mills coming in free agency. I still think one of the best free agency signings. Bringing in Cam Thomas and Day'Ron Sharpe in the draft. Two guys that can really make some impact, especially Cam Thomas off the bench. Kyle, I think I have an idea where you have the Nets.
They're obvious title favorites, right?
Yeah.
I guess my question to you is like, are in the East, do you think they're the title favorites?
I think it's very interesting because had you asked me this a week and a half ago before Media Day, I'd say yes.
Okay.
I think after everything that's been coming out because of the NBA's vaccination policies, I don't know. I definitely still think they are a top two. I just don't know how far this team can go depending on how many games Kyrie Irving plays for them this season.
Yeah, but they almost beat the Bucks without Kyrie and with an injured Harden, who was damn near immobile.
Yeah. No, I completely...
I think this roster just got better. And Joe Harris is not going to shoot like that 2 years in a row. He's just not.
Fair. Yeah.
I think
it's definitely fair.
That if you get Joe Harris at average, below average, anything that is not like historically terrible, I think that team probably wins. I think that when you look at the young guys that they added, I think they still could have another trade, which is crazy. Bruce Brown, as much as I love Bruce Brown, I think he's a free agent next year. I don't think that they're going to be able to re-sign him. I think they could move him in the middle of the season, and I think that the list of teams that would like him is 30 teams long. I think
Yeah.
and you could package him with whoever, Sekou and a pick or something, and maybe you get one more veteran guy. So I think that this team could still potentially get someone else. I think that they're probably the destination for buyouts. If it's not the Lakers, it's probably them. And so as totally stacked with veterans and guys that we feel like could win the chip, as stacked as it looks right now, I think it could look stronger. I do understand the Kyrie concerns, but it's also hard to project, what the pandemic's going to look like and what the regulations are going to look like in the playoffs.
Absolutely.
In 6 months. So I think it's super valid to ask Kyrie, hey, what's going on? And he says, hey, well, can we respect my privacy? Can we just talk about basketball? All right, here's a basketball question. Will you be able to play half of the basketball games? How's that? How is that for a basketball question? Can you play can you play your home basketball games? Will you be participating in basketball games?
With your basketball teammates on the basketball team.
Yeah. The number on media day was 85% vaccinated. I think it has since gone up to 95% vaccinated.
I did see it. Yeah, I did see it jump. I don't remember the exact number, but I know it was over 90% at this point.
Yeah.
So
and the Nets are talking like they feel like they're confident that he'll play. So with that being said, I think they'll have him. I think that they're going to be the number one team.
Like I said, if this was a week and a half ago, I'm hammering this is the title favorites. Even now with the Kyrie questions, I would still probably say they are who I expect to come out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah.
I'm just a little more uncertain.
Yeah.
That's simply it.
Yeah.
But
how do you feel like they match up with Giannis? Like, how do you? Because I think that I don't mean to put the cart before the horse here, but like the defending national champions, it's kind of you kind of have to think about, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
Yeah.
So
I am actually intrigued. I mean, you said it best. They almost won that series unhealthy. So at the end of the day, I think their approach for beating Milwaukee, I think they're going to take it from we're going to let Giannis get his. We're not going to let Chris Middleton. It's almost like it's just they're going to make Chris Middleton beat them.
Yeah.
Like or maybe not even Middleton. They're just going to make the Bucks find somebody else that has to step up that entire series. And this is obviously if they play each other in the playoffs again. We've seen crazy things happen. But I think that's going to be their mindset playing Milwaukee.
Yeah, I think the one thing they do have is a ton of bodies to throw at Giannis. If they just wanted to go the foul route, they could do that really, really well. Between Aldridge, between Blake Griffin, between James Johnson, who I think James Johnson's role is Giannis and Embiid. I think that he is like the kind of like bruiser kind of guy. I think that he is 6 hard fouls is his role on this team. So I think they got some guys that they could throw at him. I also do think that sure, they might not have an answer for Giannis, but do the Bucks have an answer for KD?
They lost PJ Tucker. Yeah, they lost PJ Tucker.
Yeah. So all right, you don't got an answer for our best weapon. We might not have one for yours. Let's just go out there and kind of duke it out.
I think they're going to be exciting shootouts regardless between those two teams. And I think another team that is going to be involved in a lot of exciting shootouts this season is our next team on the list, the Charlotte Hornets. Yep. And Kyle, for this one, I have Charlotte in the play-in.
Okay.
But because I know that's where they ended last season. But I have them as kind of this team could be the one that comes out of the play-in.
Okay.
But
interesting you say that. I
Yeah.
have them in the play-in and as the team that would come out of the play-in. I agree.
Let's go. We're out
How'd you
here.
get there? How'd you get them in the play-in?
I think with this team, I just don't think LaMelo Ball is going to have a sophomore slump. I also, really love them getting Kai Jones in the draft. Not only because I called it, he went a little later, but I did call it in the mock draft, kind of. I also love them bringing in James Bouknight to run alongside him. I just think this team is very exciting. They were on a good trajectory to end the season. I also think Gordon Hayward is gonna be another really solid piece for that rotation. It just feels like things in Charlotte are gonna be coming up. Millhouse, they're gonna just be running and gunning, and Melo's gonna be running all over the place with the ball. So I like Charlotte, and yes, I know this would technically be the same result for them. Again, make it to play-in, come out of the play-in, so it is one step further.
Yeah, Gordon Hayward looked really good last year.
Yeah.
But I am curious on if they keep him just because he's a bit on the older side. He's already 31 before the season starts. And he's got 2 years left on his contract, so it's become very tradable now, I think. Even at $29 million. But between Kelly Oubre and Miles Bridges, I think Miles Bridges could be that guy, really. And he just fits the timeline a lot better. But I'm just curious on what they could get. I do love Kai Jones. I know you've been super high on him. You mocked him there on our YouTube mock draft episode we did.
Yeah.
And I like that. They got Mason Plumlee, who I got to watch a bit in Detroit, who will be a really good, kind of better passer for a big. They just upgraded from Bismack. They just clearly upgraded. Losing Malik Monk, but adding Bouknight, that feels pretty good there. So
again, a guy that fits their timeline.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I like this team. I think that they're deep with guys that I enjoy watching play basketball. But they're still a few years away. So it's just it's going to be interesting to see how they balance developing and kind of going for it, right? It
is I would say it's a very, very good time to be a fan of the Charlotte Hornets, though. There is a direction they are trying to take that team. It's just a matter of getting there at this point. I really do like the point you make, though, about Hayward's contract. It would be interesting to see them be some movers come trade deadline time.
Yeah, I mean, ideally for me, I want to see Kai. I don't think Kai Jones will get a ton of minutes this year. I think he'll get a good amount, but I would love to see Kai Jones, PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, Bouknight, and LaMelo, or Terry Rozier and LaMelo. I don't know, if you want to run that kind of backcourt, but I'd like to see that team, and that's a team that could grow together for many years.
Yeah.
So
I put the Hornets on your league pass list. If they're not already, this team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Another team that's going to be a lot of fun to watch as we now transition into this run of Central Division teams, the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
This team had one of, if not the best off seasons, bringing in Lonzo, bringing in Alex Caruso, bringing in DeMar DeRozan. Already had a really nice young core to start off with Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, brought in Vucevic at the trade deadline last season. This just feels like a team that's ready to take a nice leap this season. Kyle, I've got them in the 6 to 8 seed. That's where I had them when we did free agent Palooza. I said that was kind of their ceiling. I'm curious to see where you have them as well.
Yeah, I would put them at the top of that 6 to 8 seed.
Yeah.
It feels like talent wise they would be like in that 3 to 5 seed,
Hmm.
but uh, just kind of when we get to through the list and look at it as a whole, there's not a team from the 3 to 5 that I would move down and move the Bulls in over. But I do think that there is a difference between the Bulls and the Celtics. I think that they're kind of like
Agreed.
their own tier within that little tier. Um, I I really like that this team has 4 people that shot over 38% from three last year in Vucevic, Patrick Williams, Lonzo, and Levine. Um, I think that this team will be able to obviously shoot the three ball. DeRozan, we talked about it on the free agent special. DeRozan was number 1 last year in points per possession on isolation.
Yeah.
Again, the other 10 names on this list, the company he's in is crazy. Giannis, Harden, Luka, Lillard, Kyrie, Embiid, Paul George, Chris Paul, and Zion. All guys that are like dominant offensively. And DeRozan was number 1 in isolation, so he's good at getting his own bucket. And again, he's the only player that didn't shoot over 38%. So when you put that together, he's obviously able to score. They're able to score. That's not going to be an issue at all. I do worry defensively a little bit, but I do think that defense in the regular season is a bit overstated. But I do like that they have Alex Caruso, which is really nice.
Yeah.
And I think he'll be able to provide good defense. Patrick Williams will be able to provide excellent defense. So Lonzo, we know Lonzo coming out is good defensively. So they're able to still put a rotation out there of a few guys. I think Zach LaVine will take a step forward defensively, especially after what we saw in the USA basketball. I think that just being around those guys, being around that type of coaching, kind of having to play defense in just such a different kind of style of basketball. And I think he had a good Olympics. I think that he's going to come out and just be a little bit more of a well-rounded player. So
also, he's probably, his load on the offensive end is not going to be as demanding with them bringing in the, DeRozan, just other offensive options for him. So he's going to have a bit more energy to exert on the defensive end as well this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's nice that there's so many different people on this team that can play make. And so, I mean, just because he's an isolation guy doesn't mean that he's ball stopper. We talked about it again, that he had his career high in assists last year, DeRozan.
Yes.
So
a lot of guys
that can play make.
Increased his assist numbers every season he was in San Antonio. The Spursian way rubbed off on him. I think really with this Bulls team, the biggest hurdle for them this season, there's 2. One, I just don't, again, the firepower thing, just that's going to catch up in a playoff series. But I think just building the team chemistry, just with it being kind of a newer look roster, I think you could see them maybe not get off to the start you would expect them to. And then post All-Star break is when I think they're really going to kick it into gear. And that's really why I have them in 6 to 8, maybe not a little bit higher, just because I think that getting to know you phase is going to be what, I don't even want to say holds them back, because you have to go through that to become a team. It's
provide
part
some
of
friction. Provide some friction at the beginning. Patrick Williams' health also thrown in there. He had an injury. I think at the time of the injury was 4 to 6 weeks, and it's been a week or so.
Yeah.
So the very start of the season, he might miss some time there. I think that this team does have to gel. I think that they'll definitely get there, and again, by All-Star breaks feels like a great time for that. But they do have 3 players that have averaged over 23 points per game on their team, in Vucevic, in Levine, and in DeRozan. I mean, that's three big mouths to feed. Now they've all taken kind of different roles in the last 12 months, so I definitely think they're gonna get there. And again, when we look at the maturity that I think that Zach LaVine is gonna have after USA basketball, which I don't feel like I'm over exaggerating. I think that like literally every time that we talk about USA basketball, like retrospectively, it's like a career changing thing for like LeBron and Melo and like all of these guys. Like they go to the Olympics and they're like, oh my gosh, like I learned how other guys train and I learned like excellent coaching. It's just like I do think that there will be a noticeable difference.
You made me think
Zach
of
LaVine.
that. It's like that TikTok. The oh my god, oh my god. That's
Right.
what the USA basketball is like. Like they
Yeah.
get there and you're like they have like a shitty first game. You're like, oh my god, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh my god. That's
Yeah.
that's like any player going through Team USA.
Yeah. And then I still like some guys coming off the bench. Derek Jones Jr. Will be able to provide some defense just with how athletic he is. Kobe White's not going to be, a defensive guy necessarily by any means, but a solid guy with a good pedigree. And
I think he's gonna benefit from knowing solely what his role is now. Like they're not going to
Yeah.
be mix matching him between starters and bench rotation minutes.
Yeah.
He's clearly going to be the bench point guard on this team.
Yeah.
Which I think will help with his growth as a player. I think, and I honestly just think at the end of the day, I would just hope that your team is not the team matched up with the Chicago Bulls in the first round of the playoffs. I think they are that team that their seeding at the end of the season will not indicate how good of a team they are. And
Yep.
I think they will be the upset special pick in the first round. Obviously, that's dependent on matchups, but again, I'd be scared if I had to play the Bulls in the first round.
I agree. I don't think that they're going to have a home playoff series, but if I had to pick one road dog, just kind of how off my seedings are, I think it'd probably be the Bulls. It does worry me a little bit about their front court depth.
Yeah.
Not super deep there, but maybe they can figure out a way to get that patched up during the season. I also think it's a contract year for Zach LaVine. So interesting to see kind of how that all plays out. I do think that the Bulls are going to kind of want to schmooze him a bit. I think that that's a lot of what we're seeing is, hey, Zach, we like you. Here's our obvious push to surround you with a really good team. And I just don't think Zach LaVine is that far off from Devin Booker. I really don't. Don't. Numbers wise, they're right there neck and neck. I think if Zach LaVine was on the Suns last year, I think that team probably looks similarly. So I think that that's kind of how we should be looking at Zach LaVine, is kind of like that Devin Booker-esque kind of player. So it'll be interesting this year to see him in a contract year and what the team does about that, knowing that that's the kind of caliber player that they have.
Yeah. Well, from a team you should be scared to be matched up with in the first round to a team that you're not going to have to worry about in the first round of the playoffs this year, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I had them in the 14%er.
Okay.
I personally think we're going to be seeing them once again, hoping to get one of the top draft picks next year. Kyle, where do you have this team sitting?
I have them in the lottery, but
Okay.
I'm open on this one. I'm open for discussion on this one. And I would be curious on, this would be a good one for, if you're watching on YouTube, to go down into the comments and let us know where you put this team, because I think this team is kind of teetering. And I think there's one or two other teams that are kind of like this as well. But the reason I put them in the lottery, one, I don't necessarily think Kevin Love is going to play a lot.
Okay.
If any, but I think he'll play some. I do think that their backcourt has played together a little longer than some of these other backcourts. Like when we look at the other kind of worse teams, I just think that Sexland today is further along, say what you want, than Suggs and Cole Anthony. I just think they are. And as much as I love Cade and Killian, I think that, again, two guys that have played together, and you can't kind of understate how good Colin Sexton's been at scoring and shooting the ball. I think that he's kind of miscast as a one a little bit early in his career. I think he's clearly like a two guard, very obviously, but not always used like that. So I think this team has that. They got Jared Allen, which Jared Allen is probably one of the best big men of these bottom teams that we're going to look at.
Yeah.
They got Evan Mobley, who I think Evan Mobley has as good of a chance to contribute, if not the best chance to contribute day one out of all these other teams. Evan Mobley was super interesting in Summer League because he wasn't used like a center at all.
They ran him out of the perimeter a lot in Summer League.
We shouldn't think of him as a center at all. I think we should scrap that idea. He was playing from the top of the key. They would get the ball in his hands, and he could put it on the floor. He could dribble to the basket. He could pick and pop. He is very much a perimeter player offensively. He is a perimeter player offensively, which is great for them. I think to have Jared Allen down low and to have Mobley like at the top of the key. He played like at the top left of the key a lot. That's great. I think that's an awesome thing. Provide more spacing. Colin Sexton is great at catch and shoot threes. He's also great at getting ahead of steam and driving to the hoop. Darius Garland's got range to him as well. I really do. Okay, here's where it goes bad. I really hate their wings. I do.
You'd almost say their wings are. I don't know which you prefer between flats or legs, Kyle, but their wings are the ones whichever you don't prefer. I'll put it that way.
They have some boneless wings. I'll say that. Hey. Yeah, and if you're still with us after that, I mean, Isaac Okoro, I think, is probably their best shot. He looked super athletic in Summer League.
He was definitely a Summer League riser, that's for sure.
Quite literally, he played above the hoop. He was bouncy. And so, again, when we talk about kind of some floor spacing, I think that he's got some room there as a slasher, but he's still so young and he's in the Summer League this year.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. Like, your best wing is in the Summer League. So I don't know. I think that they have a few guys that are ready to contribute now. They got Ricky Rubio, which is at least interesting.
Yeah.
And not everyone can be at the bottom. I mean, statistically, these guys got to play each other. So
it's fair.
I'm open. I'm open to why they would be in the 14%. The floor is yours.
I can explain it, but I would have to give away the team I have in their place.
Okay.
And so maybe we just wait until we get to that team.
Yeah. Okay.
But here's what I will say. Here's what I will say about the Cleveland Cavaliers. The reason why I had them in the 14% is because they're a team that just feels like an episode of Dexter's Lab where he's like, I have an idea, and it does the cutaway where it just shows like the outside of his house. You just hear all the tools and everything going, like the cranking of the wrenches. Yeah, it's just, something's going on. You don't know what that something is.
What are they building in there?
And that's what I feel like regarding the Cleveland Cavaliers. I just am like, what are they building over there? And it's just that lack of knowing that has me more convinced they will be again at the bottom, or closer to the bottom than a little bit further from the bottom, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that they have like the roster flexibility that I think other teams
Yeah.
have.
I
Which
will
is
say, though,
weird
I'm sorry to
because
cut you off. Yeah. I will say, I do like the point you make about how they have a bit more just years under their belt with this roster.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
completely understand looking at it from that perspective. So again, when we get to the team that I have in their place,
Mhm.
we'll shake it out from there. But for now,
Okay.
we'll leave them in the lottery spot because no harm, no foul there.
Yeah. So last thing on them,
Okay.
the lack of like roster flexibility and kind of the what's the best way to say this? Like the positionless basketball. Like Lauri Markkanen doesn't play positionless basketball. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't play positionless basketball. You holding on to Kevin Love, that's not positionless basketball.
Mm-mm.
It's really just weird. It's a weird thing. Like I don't. And Jared Allen, like he is a 5, and that's it. Like you know what I mean? Those are your big gets. I think that drafting someone that can play the 4 or the 5. There you go, Evan Mobley.
Exactly.
That's something. But just those 3 guys, it's kind of weird. They're just very, very kind of locked in. They're gonna have to play 2 big guys pretty much always. They're gonna have 2 of Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Kevin Love, if he even sees the light of day, Lauri Markkanen. I think they have too much invested in those guys financially or draft stock wise.
Yeah.
2 of those guys are going to be out on the court at the same time always, and it's just going to always be a big man rotation. And I don't think all the other teams are going to play like that. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it will do okay in the regular season, but like if that team down the line, in a couple of years wants to think about the playoffs, like you need to watch some Utah Jazz games and look at how unsuccessful that was, or look at the Pistons from a couple of years ago with Drummond and Blake, and like realize that 2-man shit, like, or look at Al Horford and Embiid even, like, and the talent that they had, like, it's 2 massive big guys isn't I don't know. Doesn't necessarily have its place. Yeah, it doesn't have its place.
Well, let's go ahead and move on from Cleveland. And here we have the final stretch of the Central Division teams, and it just happens to be the 2 teams that you and I root for, Kyle. So let's go ahead. They're first alphabetically, your beloved Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
An exciting offseason. A genuinely exciting offseason for the Pistons. A young core that's starting to be fleshed out. We see the vision of where they're trying to take this team. Kyle, how far does that first step go this season?
The Pistons are the youngest team in the league. And off that alone, they need to be in the 14 percenters.
Yep. That's where I had them.
If we just start there. They're the youngest team, the most inexperienced team. Killian Hayes has been on this team. This is his 2nd year, and he is the most tenured person on this team. Troy Weaver has literally flipped everyone else on this team. He has selected every single person that is on this team. It's all new, and they need time to gel, and they need time to develop. And I think that they're going to get that time. I think that Cade is going to win Rookie of the Year. That is my obvious. I mean, we'll do an awards thing, but I love Cade. He's going to be my, the player I'm watching the most closely, of course. But I think that he'll get his time to really showcase himself. He's going to make other players better, and they need to get better because they're not there. Killian Didn't have a great summer league, honestly. Um, he looks okay as like a decision maker, um, but he's still just catching up with the speed of like USA basketball. He's a French guy, but he played in Germany league, and like he's come out and said like Germany is just a slower league, and kind of his strengths were able to get some separation. He has a really good step back three, but that depends on getting separation, and he's not always able to get that. His catch and shoot threes don't always look good. His legs don't always look like they're settled under him. There's just some room for improvement there. Obviously, they have some really good bright spots between Isaiah Stewart, Beef Stew. He was first team all all rookie, and Sadiq Bey was second team. And oh, I'm sorry, I have those flipped. But they have two people that made the top two all rookie teams, which is great. And they've come out and said that Isaiah Stewart will continue to see about half the minutes at the center position, him and Kelly Olynyk, which is good. The good thing that this team does is they realize, okay, we want to develop Killian. How can we do that? So they go out and get Mason Plumlee, and they think a passing big is someone that can help him in this first year. Okay, that's good. We did that. They say, all right, we're going to move on from him. And it cost them a little bit to move on from him. But they said, we need someone that can spread the floor a little bit more, because that's what we need to develop people. So they went out and got Kelly Olynyk. They're getting these guys to help develop, which is awesome. And so I think that Isaiah Stewart's going to see about half the minutes. Sadiq Bey will see a full slate at the wing. And we got to see him kind of put the ball on the floor, he doesn't make smart decisions when he puts the ball on the floor. But we got to see it more. Jeremy Grant, he's, a U.S. gold medal winner. I think that he'll have, some little improvement from that. He didn't really get too much playing time. So, but just being around those guys and kind of seeing what they do and how they do it, this team is going to struggle. They're going to focus on improving, and they're not going to focus on playing old dudes.
Yeah.
So it's a year of improvement. It's a year to get older, year to play together more, but it's not going to be a year of winning. The city knows that.
But you know what I think is going to be funny? I don't want to say funny about this team. I still think this team is going to be fun to watch. Like maybe this is just we're friends. You and I are really good friends. We talk about the Pistons and the Pacers outside of this show a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I have a soft spot for this team now because of us just talking about them all the time. I just think this team is still going to be fun to watch because yes, they're going to struggle, but you even made the point they're going to focus on growing. And there's a phrase you kind of like to throw around when we're talking about really any of the Detroit teams, whether it's the Lions, the Tigers, the Red Wings, the Pistons. You're like, we just want a team that will fight. And I think that's the thing. This team's going to struggle, but they're not going to go down without a fight. It's going to be anything but a struggle watching that team. You know what I mean? It's going to be tough losses. They're going to be hard to swallow losses, but they're going to be necessary losses for them going forward. So I still think this is a team to have on your league pass rankings because, one, Cade is going to be fun. Him and Jalen Green are going to be going back and forth all season for that Rookie of the Year award. So you're going to want to at least see what Cade's doing. If there's any reason, just watch to check in on Cade Cunningham. But I do think, again, Sadiq Bey, I love Sadiq Bey. I think he's so much fun. Like Isaiah Stewart a lot. I just really like the young pieces of this team. I'm terrified of this team 3 years from now. But right now, I'm just focused on them being fun, being the fun young Pistons.
Yeah, and this is another conversation for another episode. But with the talks about the TV deals and what different agencies are saying, They're saying that with the TV deal in 2025, the cap could potentially go up $75 million, which is like unheard of.
And that'll be right when this team is hitting their stride.
This team will be one of the teams that is like, okay, we got some pieces that, we're about to start entering our second year contracts. They're going to have some cap space and stuff. It's just going to be super interesting. Again, that's obviously a conversation for another day, but
yeah,
they're playing the long game here for sure. They're playing the long game, and part of the long game is doing a lot of losing. So
yeah,
we're in it for the long run.
Yes, sir. All right.
It is it is your turn now.
Yep.
From my blinders and fandom to yours, where do you put your ever so beloved Indiana Pacers?
America's team in my heart.
The most cursed team for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I have the Pacers in the 6 to 8 realm, and I prefaced this episode talking about how I did where I think teams could fall. They're one of the teams that I put in there because I think this is their ceiling outcome, 6 to 8 seed. Obviously, I think the biggest reason for any sort of improvement with this team is Rick Carlisle. There's no denying that. You and I had a conversation about a week ago where we were talking about, and not to give too much away with the Mavericks for the Western Conference episode, but we talk about, losing Rick Carlisle for the Mavericks equals how many wins lost for the Mavericks. Well, I think you have to take those wins lost for the Mavericks, and that's got to attribute for wins added for the Pacers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one positive step. I would love to be sitting here today and say this team is going to be healthy to start this season, but that's just not the case because the injury curse has continued with this roster. Edmund Sumner going out with an ACL injury, TJ Warren's rehab taking longer than expected, and on the first day of training camp, it came out that Caris LeVert was dealing with back spasms, but he told the media that he's been playing through it. They're really just going through cautionary things, but still, the injury woes continue to just stack up for this team. So I still don't think that this roster's true talent can be realized, but I think with Rick Carlisle and really the theme that has been just absolutely preached and hammered home through this first week of training camp for the Pacers is that they really felt like outside of the coaching issues, they felt like there was a lack of togetherness with the roster last season. They felt like they didn't really have a true leader, which makes sense because the assumed leader, Victor Oladipo, was traded midway through the season, so nobody knew who would step up. Sounds like Malcolm Brogdon is going to be that guy. So I think them having a proper locker room leader will also really help this team. It's just bringing that chemistry back that was such a huge part of what's kept this roster afloat for the last, really since the Paul George trade. I think the return of that is also going to lead to them trending back into that positive direction and back into the playoffs.
Okay. Do you see them making any major moves or anything like that? You think this is pretty much the roster that they have?
I think if there's any moves, I know what you're getting at.
Fringe guys or something.
Yeah, because I thought you were getting at them being floated around in the Ben Simmons rumors recently.
Oh, I was a little.
Yeah. Okay. Because I don't think they will, but me saying that means they probably will. I don't really know. Really, the only thing I can think of is now Carlisle has been pretty open about that he wants Sabonis and Turner to play. Like he's a Turbonis guy from how it sounds. Now he is going to stagger the minutes, but who knows? Maybe it's not working the way he wants it to midway through the season, and we're back into the Miles Turner trade talks. Maybe that does happen around trade deadline time. I'm not certain. Do I think the roster right now as is what maybe we see at the end of the season? No, I really don't. I do think Kevin Pritchard and Chad Buchanan will probably make some sort of midseason move. But who knows? I don't know with this team. That's why it's frustrating. If this team was healthy, I could probably tell you no. They're going to probably run it with what's happening, but they can't catch a break. No pun intended with the injury thing. And that's what scares me. I think this team goes as far as what their health allows them to.
I totally agree with all of that. I think that this team is a good example of like a team that plays better than the sum of its parts, if that makes sense.
No, 100% agree.
I think that like on paper, you're just like, okay, this guy's pretty good, this guy's pretty good, this guy's pretty good, and then the team is really good. But I think that you start to lose that when you take away one piece, two piece, three pieces potentially, stuff like that. And
this team is not Brooklyn, where they can lose one of their stars and still almost beat the team that goes on to win the title. That's just not what this Pacers team is.
Yeah, I don't know who carries this team. We're down one of our main guys. Who's going to step up and like really, really boom? You know what I mean? I just don't know if they have that positive room to kind of swing one way. And so for that reason, like with it being so fragile to me, I would put them in the play-in. I think that their ceiling is definitely in the 6 to 8 seed. I think we're in full agreement there. Just realistically, like if I was a betting man, I just think that if the injury bug has already started and they're kind of already playing, at a deficit, they're kind of playing catch up already. And so like a lot of stuff has to go right for them to just kind of keep the course.
No, and, I completely see that. I would love to hear who you have in 6 to 8.
Let's leave them in 6 to 8, and when we get there, we can kind of talk about why I have another team over them.
Yeah. I will definitely say this. There's been, just from everything I've heard with this team so far, there's just a lot of talk like, we got to do this, we got to do that. Like all these guys saying what they want to happen, and I want to believe it. It's just I'm in the part now with this current iteration of the Pacers. Like I need to see you guys do it. Like Malcolm Brogdon said in his media day presser that him and Karis LeVert have to be one of the best backcourts in the NBA. I would love for that to happen. I love both of those guys. I really do, but I need to see it. And I really want to believe that they can do it, but again, they're two injury prone guys, so I cannot force myself to believe it, which is just, that's kind of my thing with this Pacers team. You call them the X-Files. I want to believe, bro. I want to believe.
Yeah, I don't think that there's definitely no lack of really good players on this team, but there is a lack of top tier talent. And so
it's totally fair.
I think that's when you think about a team that has to make up any deficit, not having that top tier talent, I think it just makes it so much more difficult.
And I'm sure we'll get into this when we talk about the Sixers, but I will definitely say this here and now. If Ben Simmons got traded to the Pacers, I would absolutely love it. I definitely think he would be a great fit on this roster. That's a conversation for another day. We could probably do a whole episode on Ben Simmons trade scenarios. I don't want to do that, but we could.
Real quick, what do you see as like a?
I honestly think it would have to be one of the two centers, like probably Turner, Brogdon, or Karis LeVert. I think it would be one of those three guys that would have to be parts of it. But
okay,
let's move on, because that's a trade machine rabbit hole that I'm not ready to get down at this time. Let's move on to a team that, in my notes for this, when I did my prep, I literally wrote down, this is like one of Kyle's teams. I'm just going to let him go because I probably agree. If I don't agree, I'll be shocked. But the Miami Heat, I will tell you, I have them in the 3 to 5 seed range. Kyle, where do you have this team?
I have them at the top of the 3 to 5 seed range.
Okay.
I do really like this team. I think that this team
Yeah.
is very, very well thought out when constructed. I love the kind of two identities I think of when I think of this team. The offensive identity, if they want to run Lowry, Duncan Robinson, and Tyler Hero, and just have three guys that can absolutely shoot the ball. If they want to pick two of those guys, which I think that their best two is Duncan Robinson and Lowry. If they want to pick those two, and they want to go with more defensive minded, they could on the court they could run, Lowry, PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, and Jimmy Butler, which is scary defensively. I just see a world where they have the three best offensive guys, or I see them having the three best defensive guys, like literally the three best in a lot of matchups.
Yeah.
And that's really advantageous for them. I think that Tyler Hero is kind of falling back down to earth. He's kind of just he's a guy
regressing to the mean.
Yeah. He's probably just a better version of Luke Kennard, which is totally fine. Luke Kennard had a good playoffs last year, in the when he wasn't DNP'd, but like he was fine. But we're kind of over like the whole we're not trading you for James Harden thing. I think that ship has sailed. I don't see a world where he becomes Zach LaVine or Devin Booker or anything like that. I just don't. And that's okay. I think that he's probably a guy that comes off the bench and again, totally fine. But just more of a realistic approach to it. PJ Tucker I don't love during the regular season, but I do like him in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
Getting a guy that
I think the P in PJ Tucker stands for playoffs. I'm convinced at this point.
Yeah, or pain in Kevin Durant's ass, because that was
that too.
That was his entire role basically.
Yeah.
And when we talk about, I don't mean to like spoil anything. Like last year, the three best teams in the East were the Nets, the Bucks, and the Sixers, and they were the three best teams because they had the three best players in Giannis, Embiid, and KD. And so, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best. How do you beat Giannis? I think a really good place to start would be Bam Adebayo. I think we saw what he did 2 years ago in the bubble. Now, last year didn't go great. Let's be honest. But Giannis in his games against Miami, when he's matched up with Bam, he's averaging just 21 points a game. That's a huge win. 21 points a game,
of course,
for Giannis. You take that every time. Embiid, when Adebayo's been matched up with him, they only played once last year. Bam had 18 points, 12 boards, and 8 assists. Embiid, 6 points, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist. Small sample size, I get it. Embiid's the obvious better player. But if you can slow these guys down, which almost seems like an impossible feat, if you can slow them down, you're going to be in the game. I think you are.
Yeah.
PJ Tucker on Kevin Durant for 59 minutes last year. KD, in my opinion, best player in the world, top 2 best player in the world, whatever you want to put him. Averaged just 13 points per game, shooting 45% from the field and 11 turnovers in that 59 minutes. They have answers to the biggest thing you need answers for in this conference, and that's more of a playoff thing. But I really like it.
You're also there's one other thing you're forgetting when it comes to the Heat, when it comes to matchups in general. They have one of the best coaches in the game. They have Eric Spoelstra, who I forget the number that I threw out, but it's like 98% of the time you're going to want to take Spo over the guy that's on the other sideline or in the other bench in this case. I mean, this team is a team of dogs. Eric Spoelstra thrives when he has a team of dogs. I do really like this Miami team. Excuse me. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they took out Brooklyn or Milwaukee in a playoff series. It really is again, just I think they are a matchup nightmare for both of those teams. I think the only thing that worries me, this is a loose worry. I don't know how they fare if a series turns into shootouts. But I also think they have the ability to manipulate a series to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I think that's a real concern. The shootout thing. I think that it's I think that it's really understated how bad of a 3-point shooter Jimmy Butler is. The nickname Jimmy Buckets. He is as bad.
Bulls
if not
fans
worse.
can be convincing when they think of a good nickname.
He is as bad at shooting threes as Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, he shot 24%. The year before that, he shot 24% from three. That you are now at the range where it is like, probably just don't shoot. Probably just don't shoot those. The threat thing kind of goes away once you get around 24%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
teams are happy if you're settling for a 3 at that point.
The keep them true doesn't really work when you're looking at that. Now you're averaging clearly less than a point per possession, off those 3-point attempts.
Yeah.
Averaging less than a point per possession is, if you're averaging 0.8 points per possession on those shots, just take a mid-range jumper.
Yeah.
At that point. But Butler has clear value. We saw what he did in the finals, 2 years ago against the Lakers. He can score, but in the shootout category, I do worry about that a little bit. It's an obvious weakness that I don't think is talked about enough.
Yeah. Well, from Miami to a team that they're going to be trying to knock off this season. In fact, it's the team that everybody's going to be trying to knock off. The reigning champion, Milwaukee Bucks. I don't think we need to try and throw any type of softball or try to throw people off. They're a title favorite again. You're the defending champ. They're basically just running it back minus PJ Tucker this season. Giannis is still the same guy that's coming off a 50-piece in Game 6 of the finals. I mean, what's more to say about the Bucks that probably hasn't already been said 1,000 times at this point? This team is really, really fucking good.
Yeah, you lose PJ Tucker, which again I think you'll start to feel in the playoffs a little bit. But you get back Dante DiVincenzo, which is huge. Rodney Hood is added to this team. Grayson Allen is added. I don't think that this bench provides a lot of defense, which would be my only concern.
Yeah.
But I think that this bench could score. When you look at bringing out a bench of like DiVincenzo, George Hill, Bobby Portis, Rodney Hood, some buckets will be gotten. But
they will also be given up as well.
Yeah, so I think that this team will be, near the top, if not the top defensively, just because of how strong their starters are.
Of course.
But, what else is there to say about this team? I guess my only thing is, like, are we underrating them? Should we be putting them as the title favorites? Are they one of the title favorites? Okay. I don't either. I just wanted to.
I think that it is Brooklyn.
I think it's Brooklyn.
We talked about Brooklyn at the very top.
I'm confident. I'm confident in putting Brooklyn number one.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where it's Milwaukee benefited from a shoe size being one size too big, and this makes it sound like I'm trying to take it away from what they did last offseason or last postseason, and I truly don't mean it this way. I'm just saying we saw how Brooklyn took them to the limit without being fully healthy.
Yeah, they deserve.
If Brooklyn is fully healthy, Brooklyn is the better team.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. They deserve to win that finals series.
130%.
Did they deserve to win the Eastern Conference Finals series?
Mm. It was a gutty performance after losing Giannis, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
I see it as Brooklyn is 1 and Milwaukee is 2. I don't really see it as a 1A 1B thing.
No.
I see it as a 1 and 2 there.
Yeah.
But
Gap's not it's not a big gap, but there is still a gap.
Giannis should be the MVP favorite this year, next year, the year after, probably. He's gonna do great things in the regular season. We've seen him on like a pitch count of 28 minutes a game, and the production that he gets out of 28 minutes per game is absolutely mind blowing. Yeah, it's
bonkers.
Shaq-esque numbers. So
I'm so excited for the NBA to be back, just because I'm so excited to watch Giannis play basketball again. It's just so much fun to watch that dude play.
Yeah, and I know you already said it, but just friendly reminder: they had a 50 piece in a series winning game. And
not just a series winning game, the series to win the whole damn thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like he literally put up 50 and then went on FaceTime to call his teammate, best friend, and brother. And
then went to Chick-fil-A the next morning. It just
yeah,
we love
he's different.
Listen,
he's different. We love him. Yeah.
All right. Well, from a team that
please, can we get that as the Eastern Conference Finals? Please, no injuries. Please, can I just see these teams play? That's all.
NBA script writers, come on now.
Please,
let it happen.
Come on.
Let it happen. All right. From a team that was very easy to slot to a team that I personally was going back and forth with.
Okay.
In two areas, basically. New York Knicks. Now, again, I wasn't doing this mathematically. I had them in the 6 to 8. Again, just based off of, I think this is where their ceiling is. But I could also see them being a play-in team. Kyle, where do you have New York?
So I had them in the 6 to 8 seed. And because in my hypothetical tier list, Charlotte can't play themselves in the play-in tournament.
Of course.
I had Charlotte playing the Pacers.
Okay.
So I had the Knicks over the Pacers.
You have the Knicks over the Pacers.
And here,
which that would be, I would probably have them flipped. I would have the Pacers over the Knicks. So that's, why do you have the Knicks above the Pacers?
Yes. Knicks, already a playoff team. I do think that they were kind of punching above their weight class a bit.
Okay.
I think that kind of got shown. But I think that they were doing that with a pretty weak backcourt in Emmanuel Quickley and like Derrick Rose was kind of like the crux of their backcourt, which Derrick Rose wasn't in the league in like 2018 for a little while. You know, like he was just like, I hope I could play basketball again kind of thing. Like
and then
a few years ago. Yeah. Emmanuel Quickley was also not in the league a couple years ago because he was just in college and he's so young. And so I think that this team, adding Evan Fournier, adding Kemba Walker, say whatever you want about Kemba Walker and if he's washed or not. A washed version of Kemba Walker is still the best guard on this team by a considerable amount, in my opinion. I also think Obi Toppin played well below expectations. Kevin Knox played below like imaginable expectations. And so I think with any positive regression, which I would expect from guys that early in their career that you'll get, I think that they'll take a step. I think that RJ Barrett, I think we see him take a noticeable step. And Julius Randle's not going to get the same performance, the same numbers, same output that he got last year. But what do you average? 38 minutes a game? That's unheard of. It's not necessary. Do I think that he'll do the same things that he did in 38 minutes? I think that he'll still do them for 32 minutes. But the numbers will go down because it's only 32 minutes instead of 38.
Yeah.
So he'll drop off a little bit, but it's fine. I think that there are other guys, specifically more in their backcourt, where they're not going to have to be so front court heavy. I think that there will be guys in their backcourt that'll help pick it up. And so I think that this team takes a step forward. They got playoff experience. It was pretty bad experience. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But they got some, and I think that that's kind of the expectations for this team. They know that they're a playoff team because they were in the playoffs. And
so you think it's more or less they do regress, but they've added enough to where it's not gonna have it all fall down.
No, I don't necessarily think they're gonna regress. I think that I think
regress in the sense of they're gonna have a lower seed than where they were last season.
Yeah, absolutely. They got really hot. Yeah. So I think if you take that out, and again, Julius Randle will, I think, come back down to earth a little bit, but I think we were probably a little closer to seeing the real Julius Randle last year than I think we've seen the other years. So
let me ask you this. If both these rosters and I'm just talking about the Knicks and Pacers, both rosters completely healthy. Let's say by the powers that be, these teams are healthy. Which team do you think has more talent? Or which team would you take between the Pacers and the Knicks?
Fully healthy, though, and then you're talking about Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose.
Okay.
I think it'd be a 7-game series, and it can be whoever.
Okay.
I just think going into the season, if I knew the Knicks had injuries already, like multiple injuries, and but I think that this team is
okay. No, I completely get that. So it's you think these teams are way more even than I do. As far as if they're both talent, I think the Pacers are a clear-cut talent favorite over the Knicks.
Okay.
And I get that's probably hard to buy because, I'm a Pacers fan. But I do think talent level-wise, I think the Pacers are the better team there. But
Randall
I also am the person
top
that
10 in MVP voting last year, right? Probably top 10. Do you think that the Pacers could have a guy that's top 10 in MVP voting?
Domantas Sabonis.
Okay. That's fair.
As much as I complain about Sabonis, I do also think he's a guy that if the team was winning enough games, you put Sabonis on the Knicks and have him put up those types of numbers. You could also say that Julius Randle's MVP votes came as a benefit from him playing for the Knicks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's neither here nor there. But I will, as the person that literally just said I want to believe but can't for the Pacers, I can say they can go down in the play-in based off of kind of what you're saying with the Knicks there. So we'll track them down. But do let us know. Yeah, I will say let us know between these two teams specifically, between the Pacers and the Knicks, which would you have in the 6 to 8 seed? Which would you have in the play-in? Would you have both? Just let us know because this was definitely probably the most contentious one we have.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and move on because we're already at an hour and 18 minutes on this thing. So the Orlando Magic, a team that is at the start of a rebuild, but they are off to a really good start. They bring in Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner in the draft. They unload the Otto Porter Jr. contract. And really, for the first time in a minute, there seems to be a clear vision for the Magic going forward. But there is a but with this team. It's the start. Kyle, I have this team as a lottery team. They are the team I have in the lottery over the Cavs.
Okay.
So this is kind of the aforementioned team I was talking about. My reasoning lies solely in Jalen Suggs. I simply think that dude's competitive spirit. One, I think he is going to be right in the thick of things for that Rookie of the Year race. Not in the sense that I think he will snatch it from Cade or Jalen Green. I think those are the two clear-cut favorites. But, there's always that guy that really just finds a way to force himself into that conversation. I think it's going to be Jalen Suggs. I said this in draft season. I really felt that if, by the grace of God, Jalen Suggs fell to the Magic, it would be the absolute best case scenario for them. And by God, it happened.
Yep.
So I really just think it falls more on that X factor with him. I do think he's just going to be able to pull a few extra wins out for them. That's going to eke them. I think it's close still between the two. I just think the Magic will have the better record between them and Cleveland.
Okay.
So that's where I sit with the Magic. But again, I can see them as a 14% or two.
I'm cool with putting the Magic over the Caps.
Really?
In this, I like the guys on the Magic, and I think that their roster is deep with like guys that are pretty good.
Yeah.
I just have no idea how their rotation works out. Like,
that's
just
totally fair.
Real quick, in guards, pick 2. Okay. Pick 2 to start.
Well, Jalen Suggs is going to be one of those two. So just go ahead.
So you get
so
one
ask
more.
Me, yeah. Who's my second? Okay.
You get one more. Gary Harris, Terence Ross, Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, or RJ Hampton.
I'm going
probably
with
Cole Anthony, but Gary Harris.
I was gonna say Gary Harris.
Yeah, Gary Harris feels like he should start. He's making $20 million a year.
I'm gonna roll with Indianapolis's finest, Gary Harris, on that
Michigan
one.
State alum.
Michigan State. See, what's not to like about the guy?
A great guy.
Remember, actually, he's a guy. I don't want to sidebar on Gary Harris too long, but remember you and I watching that Phoenix Denver series, and we were talking about how, like, man, it really feels like the Nuggets could use Gary Harris right about now.
Man, they're Gary Harris away. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would probably say Gary Harris is gonna be their starting two guard next to Jalen Suggs, which that's a pretty nice backcourt.
Yeah. So then their backup, and Terrence Ross could probably play the 3, but then
they're probably gonna play. I can see them playing a small lineup.
Fultz, Cole Anthony, RJ Hampton. It's kind of a logjam there. I also think they have a logjam. They have a logjam at guys that are really just centers in Mo Bamba, Wendell Carter, and Robin Lopez. Maybe Robin Lopez doesn't really play a lot. Maybe Mo Bamba.
Kyle, you're better with you're much better with this than I am, so I will defer to you here. Is the Gary Harris contract tradable?
I think so. $20 million a year. I think so.
I was just gonna say, I bet you what their plan is probably gonna be is start Gary Harris to build some trade value, and then probably flip him around deadline time, get him to a contender. I think the dude deserves that. I don't think he's in their timeline for this rebuild, but he is a solid backcourt mate for Jalen Suggs to start his career next to.
Well, Terrence Ross it feels like
it too.
Feels like the
Both
most clear cut, like, gonna be traded guy in the league this year, right? 30 years old. He's got 2 years left on his contract. 30 years old, only $12 million left.
3-and-D guy that comes in and he always has that one playoff game where it's like
any team.
Yeah.
Any team, you can see him going to any of these teams. So
the Magic are definitely going to be movers at the deadline. That's definitely
and for me, it's a tougher vision to see.
Okay.
Just because, again, like, is Gary Harris playing or is he not going to play? Is Terrence Ross going to be playing or is he not going to play? Like, these are kind of like major questions on if they're a lottery team or a 14% team.
Okay.
But I'll rock with you. Let's throw him in the lottery. I like Jalen Suggs. I'm rolling with you. I think he's second place in Rookie of the Year, right ahead of what's the guy that didn't get drafted by the Pistons and runs his mouth, whatever his name is.
The Spite second place.
Yes.
Yeah, his name's Jalen Green.
That's it.
Wouldn't you want Jalen Green to come second to Cade again in this scenario, though? Just as a reminder.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. I'm a fuck with you.
No.
All right. Listen, I know we want to put it off, but we got to do it.
Okay.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers.
Number 1 seed last year.
Yeah. Again, October 2nd is the day we are recording this. This episode drops on, let me double check my calendar. Wednesday is the 6th of October, if I've got the days right. If something happens between now and October 6th, this is your disclaimer. But as of right now, Ben Simmons is still a Philadelphia 76er. He says he's not going to play for the 76ers. So we'll see how that shakes out. At this moment, I have the 76ers as a 3 to 5 seed.
I do too. Number 4, I think they're probably just ahead of the Hawks. Number 1 seed last year. I think, to be honest, I think that whatever they get back, and they'll get something back because he will be traded, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whatever they get back, I still think they're going to be in 3 to 5 seed. I don't think they're getting Dame, but like whatever they're getting, I think will be enough, and I think Embiid is enough.
Okay.
To where they should be in the 3 to 5 seed.
I'm glad you said that because that was kind of going to be my first pseudo question with them is depending on what they get for Ben Simmons, how far do they drop here, or do you still have them staying there? So I think I agree with that as well. I don't want to give too much away, but I believe in Joel Embiid. Oh my God, I said his name wrong. I'm so sorry, Joel. But take that as you will, Kyle, but I believe in Joel Embiid this season. So
I do too.
Yeah. So I do think this team still stays in the 3 to 5 range. Now, whether Sixers fans are happy about that, who fucking knows? But yeah, I think this team's still talent-wise.
When healthy, Joel Embiid looked like the best player in the league, the MVP. He looked like the MVP last year when he was healthy.
Yeah.
And let's assume health for most of the season for him. He has Drummond backing him up, which that he can at least relieve him. And they can feel comfortable sitting Embiid down for a few minutes.
Yeah.
With Drummond on the team. Whatever jokes we want to make about Drummond, insert them here. But coming off the bench is probably the best spot for him behind Embiid. There you go.
I always wanted to play with Joel Embiid.
Well, he has always played with you like a little toy. So I was at that game where he just embarrassed emotionally and mentally. He embarrassed Drummond, got him thrown out of the game, and then went on Instagram after and tweeted that he owned real estate in his head. I was at that game in Detroit. Fun fact: the Pistons won. Blake Griffin put up 50. So, anyways,
winner all around for you that night.
Honestly, best case scenario.
Yeah.
I think that this team, Tobias Harris, is not worth $40 million as much as I like the guy, but still a really talented guy. I'm really glad
that Joel came out to the media this week and said, "We let Jimmy Butler walk for this guy." And so it's like I love that he was just like, "Yeah, I'm aware." Not about Tobias Harris, of course. Talking about how they've kept everything kosher for Ben Simmons. But just you saying the Tobias Harris thing just brings it fresh back into my head. Great quote.
Yeah. I'm a full believer in Embiid, and I honestly want to see more of him featured.
Yeah.
I want him to get the ball on every possession. I want him to get a touch. Let's double down on this Embiid thing. And Morey is a guy who plays the points per possession thing so much. He said it with Harden on his team. He was like, in NBA history, nobody is better at scoring the ball statistically than James Harden because he averaged the most points per possession. I would like to see how much Daryl Morey can kind of manipulate that points per possession thing with Joel Embiid.
Yeah.
And how kind of far he can push that with that dominant big man. And when he stops taking so many the kind of weak threes from the top of the key, and just yeah, I'd like to really see them go all in on that.
Just
and
like
I would love to see De'Aaron Fox there. That's who I want. But
this could have all been resolved months ago if they just called Sacramento.
Who knows?
Kings fans, I know you love De'Aaron Fox. We love De'Aaron Fox. But your team drafted Davion Mitchell in the first round, and there's going to be an odd man out in that backcourt, and I don't think Tyrese Halliburton is that odd man out.
Nope.
I think it's that. Get De'Aaron Fox to Philly, man. I think it would be really fun.
I think De'Aaron Fox becomes Donovan Mitchell-esque if he goes to Philly. But
yeah,
that's all hypothetical.
God, I love De'Aaron Fox. All right.
Me too.
The next team. This next team, I think, was the hardest team for me to pick a spot for doing my Eastern Conference projections. The Toronto Raptors. I could see them falling here. See them here. But ultimately, I ended up with them in the lottery again. And I simply think it has a lot to do with this team is now, I think, fully committing to a rebuild. But I don't think they know if they're fully committing to a rebuild or not. It's like we can all see it, but the franchise doesn't know if they are or not yet. It's just like this weird, I think we're doing this, but what if we're not? So I think that just, what's the word I'm looking for? Non-commitment is going to be what leads to their downfall and leads to them kind of picking near the top of the draft again next season.
Yeah, I think that the fact that Goran Dragic came out and said, I don't think I'm really playing for Toronto this year.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a sign that we should be putting him more in the lottery instead of the 6 to 8 seed. I think if Goran had intentions of going there and fighting for a playoff spot, then he would have came out and said it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen him say anything to the effect that he feels like he's going to be playing for them or anything like that. So
yeah,
I
think it's just it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before Goran's down in Dallas. It just feels like a foregone conclusion at this point.
Yeah, I fully agree. Real quick, can we get a temperature check on Pascal Siakam? How are we feeling? $33 million a year. 21 points per game last year.
The only thing
is he
that I think let me tell you why it was so hard for me to peg the Raptors. Because, and I think this is a very valid point that people have been making about this team. This team had to play all of last season down in Tampa. They were never truly at home, and that does take a toll on players. How much does this roster benefit from being back in familiar surroundings? Because 2 seasons ago, back in familiar surroundings, Siakam was on a tear.
Right. And then they went to the bubble, and the fact that they had to go to Florida was the excuse, though, in 2020, right? Or in 20.
It's kind of just it's been just one long mess for the Raptors.
Yeah.
Since they've had to stay in Florida. They had to go in Florida and stay in Florida, really. So I would love
to day, how Florida has been kind of the scapegoat for a lot of their losses over the last year and a half.
That's fair. So
I'm just saying, in the bubble, Siakam was really bad, and we were just like, yeah, but he's in Florida, away from his family. Meanwhile, every other team was like,
we're in Florida, away from our family. Okay,
locked in. So was everyone else, and I definitely get having to play all road games is undoubtedly difficult. There's no denying that. But does that mean you shoot below 30% from 3 because you're playing in Florida for every? I don't know.
It's fair.
I think he's a good player, but right now he's their player, their number 1 guy, and I think he probably needs to be around their number 3 guy, like he was for the title team when it was Kawhi, then Lowry, then Siakam, and I think that's probably where he fits. So I think that this team is probably 2 guys away, And I'm nervous that Scotty Barnes isn't 1 or 2. So
Yeah. All right.
I think he's more of their Patrick Williams kind of guy. But yeah, I think lottery is where I put them.
So you think they goofed not taking Jalen Suggs?
I
agree. I agree. I that made it sound like I was gonna be like, oh no, I agree. They goofed.
No,
taking Suggs.
Yeah, I feel comfortable saying that into a mic for real. Yeah.
All righty. Well, we have one team left, the Washington Wizards.
All right.
I mean, this team was in the play-in last season. I really do think they had a semi-impressive offseason for the return they got for Russell Westbrook. That being said, I still think they land in the play-in again.
Okay.
Roster doesn't necessarily excite me. I also just feel like, this is Bradley Beal's swan song season in DC.
If he plays.
So it just, I don't know. I think the play-in is where this team ends up falling, and it just kind of boils down to, I don't think they are more talented than any team we have above them.
No, and I think
that's my basis there.
I think they're a notch above, like, Orlando. They're a notch above Toronto, but they're also clearly a notch below the other play-in teams, in my opinion.
I agree.
They have Bradley Beal on their team, who was the second leading scorer in the whole NBA last year. Like, that is worth saying.
Yeah.
But also, is he playing?
We don't know.
We don't know. He doesn't know. He doesn't see the point of getting the vaccine if you still get sick. I would just say, what's the point of scoring 30 points a game if your team's going to suck? I mean, that. Well, how about that? How's that? What's the point of if you still get sick, why take the vaccine? If you're still going to suck, then why score 30? I don't know, because it's helpful for everyone, right? How's that for an answer? Because it's just good to do your part and score your 30. Now just get out there and score your 30. Please, so we can play basketball.
Oh, my God.
That's all I got on that. Jesus.
Oh, my God.
Dinwiddie is a nice addition. You said it. What they got for Westbrook is impressive. And really, what they got for John Wall was Westbrook, and what they got for Westbrook was impressive. So, what they got for John Wall
was impressive.
Yeah. And so, kudos
it's really
to
good
them.
work by their front office.
Yeah,
Seriously.
been a bad front office, but it's good. I think Rui takes another step forward this year. I don't know if he's necessarily like the guy kind of thing, but yeah, I think this team, is worth competing if Bradley Beal wants to pony up and do his part. So let's see you get out there and
do your part.
Score 30 for the team. Because if you don't, you're not gonna play.
Yeah.
And all I got on them.
Yeah. And on that note, that concludes our Eastern Conference tier list. So let's run through it one more time.
I would, if we can do this, because this is gonna bother me. If we can organize them in their tier,
I can't. It won't let me. Yeah, I can't move.
Oh,
it does let me. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you want them down here. So this is
the Heat. So I would say the Heat would be. Yeah, I think probably that. Yep.
Okay.
I like the Heat. Yep. And then wow, look at you. You got this.
I'm on it. And then
you're doing great.
Probably this.
I love it.
And then this.
I love it.
Okay. All right. So here's for those listening on the podcast, if you've made it this far, because we are at 1 hour and 40 minutes at this point.
Kudos to you, honestly.
Yeah. All right. Title favorites. We have the Brooklyn Nets, the Milwaukee Bucks. The 3 to 5 seed, we have the Miami Heat, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Atlanta Hawks. In the 6 to 8 seed, we have the Chicago Bulls, the Boston Celtics, and the New York Knicks. In the play-in, we have the Charlotte Hornets, the Indiana Pacers, and the Washington Wizards. In the lottery, we have the Toronto Raptors and the Orlando Magic, And then the 14 percenters for the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons and the Cleveland Cavaliers. After hearing that, Kyle, how you feeling about this?
That's it. Book it. That is true. That is not a prediction. That is actual fact, and that is law. So
it's going to be written in stone. Let me ask you, Kyle, are there any teams that you have, let's say, below the 3 to 5 seed that you could realistically see being like the shocker team that just kind of finds their way? Think like the Hawks, like found their way into that 3 to 5 seed last year. Any team from 6 to 8 down that you could see jumping up?
I have two that would stick out.
Okay.
I'm gonna say one. I'll ask you the same thing. If you don't pick them, then I'll go again.
Okay.
I would say the Celtics because they have that top end talent. As much as I don't love the pieces around them, Tatum has been there. Brown has been there. Those guys can kind of just go supernova and can really carry a team. And because of just that ability for them to pop off on any given night and every given night, I would say that they're the team that has potential to kind of just shoot up because it is a superstar league.
Okay. I would probably say, I think the obvious answer would be the Bulls.
Yeah.
For me, I think that would be an obvious team that, I mean, obviously we have them at the top of the 6 to 8 already. So it wouldn't shock me to see them end up in here. I'm going to circle back to a team that it was tough for me to peg. I think Toronto, not 3 to 5 though. I think Toronto could realistically find themselves in the 6 to 8 conversation. Okay. This is kind of just everything falling back into place for them. And again, just something about them being back in Canada for a full season. Just, I don't know. I can't underestimate We the North. It just it feels like it could happen for them. Were the Bulls your other team, Kyle?
They were not.
Okay.
I just feel like the top 5 are so solid, and I think that you really nailed it with the Bulls. With some early season, I think that they'll feel each other out. I think they'll go and just like blitz the second half of the season.
Yeah.
For me, I think that like this year's New York Knicks could be the Charlotte Hornets.
I like that. I think
the Hornets. I think the Hornets could be the 7th seed comfortably, and I think that like if one team falls to injury, I think they could go up to 6 even. I think that they're going to be sneaky, and I think that that's like kind of their top potential, and a lot of things would have to go right and go wrong for other teams, but yeah. I'm going to go Hornets.
Well, that is it. You see it, or if you've been listening on the podcast, you hear it. Let us know how you feel. Make your own tier list. I will put a link to the exact tier list that we used in the description of the podcast. I'll put it in the YouTube description. We would absolutely love to get your tier list. Send them to us at 48 Minutes Network on Twitter. Shoot, put them down in the comment section below, even if you just want to write out your tier list. We would love to know where you think we messed up, where you think we could have done better on this. All feedback is welcome. We'll absolutely love to hear your thoughts. Kyle, you got anything else for the people before we go?
That is it. Appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been a minute since we talked to you guys. And appreciate you being here, and hope you enjoy it.
Yeah, and really excited for this season. Again, we are back on Friday with the Western Conference edition of this, so keep an eye out for that. If you listen to the podcast, please 5-star reviews. Give us a thumbs up. Tune into the next episode. Subscribe to the 48 Minutes Network in general. We have a lot of cool stuff coming up for this season between us, the Bench Mob, as well as the At Large Bid podcast for the NCAA stuff. It's going to be a really fun season on the network, so we really hope you're along for the ride. We are here every Friday, so please tune in. We have a lot of cool stuff this season. Have a great rest of your night. We will talk to you later.
See you guys.